Hey, I'm going to start putting up album reviews. Just kind of a start to discuss music and just try to get it out there. Because I know a lot of people share similar interests, and I know a lot of people are going to like the first one I pick. In honor of the 10-year anniversary coming up in November, today's album is going to be brand new, The Devil and God Are Raging Inside. So, I have this album on vinyl. This is the Triple Crown repress. It's the Seafoam Green. I don't know what the rarity is. I forget. It might be 500, it might be 1,000. But this is one of the greatest albums of all time. So we're going to put that down. We're going to talk about the album track by track and just kind of go through my thoughts on each song. So in terms of the band, I just think Brand New is very innovative. I didn't write notes for this, but they know what they want to accomplish with their music. And they know that they want to vary it up every album. They don't want to make the same album twice. And I don't think they ever have. Your Favorite Weapon, pop punk. Deja is kind of like the mix between pop punk and like emo and alt rock or whatever. And then Devil and God really gets into the territory. It's a lot deeper. The songs mean a lot more. And you start to get some real heavy themes and lyrics going on. And then Daisy is kind of the wild card, but it's really, I think the best way to describe Daisy is just being, it's an album that's meant to be played live. It's like a collection of songs that they would enjoy playing live, and I applaud them for writing that album, for making that a success, how they did it. It's really good, and I enjoy it. But today we're going to be talking about, of course, Devil and God. So starting with track 1, Sowing Season. Sowing Season was one of the leaked demos off of that whole debacle, or wherever you want to call it. It was probably devastating for the band. They expressed that in interviews, and they made it clear that the songs that got released on the leaked demos were not finished, and they were not songs that people wanted to hear. And now, this year, they re-released Fork and Knife, Mamas became Luca, and Sowing Season got updated. But the rest of the tracks, they weren't meant to be heard in that level of recording, that level of quality. It was just something that they didn't want to release. And as a result of that, they went back and wrote this album that became so influential and became so big and became something of a legacy. It's hard to question whether or not the leaked demos was a good or a bad thing, because we got Devil and God, because we got the leaked demos being re-released and re-recorded. Yeah, it was a bad thing in that time, but in the long term and in the time frame of the band, I think it definitely helped them in some way. So anyway, Sowing Season. So Sowing Season starts off with this single guitar track and Jesse singing, and it really starts to display that soft, loud quality about the album, and something that they wanted to explore thematically, which is pretty common in most pop punk and most like emo music. But I think it was a song that kind of sets the mood in a good way, because you get these lyrics that are a little bit darker than Deja was, and a little bit more yelling. Like, obviously they had some screams on Sick Transit and certain moments when they would get a little audible, or guttural would be the right word. But on Sowing Season, the way they sang, the way they played was just different. To me, whenever I hear a song off of Devil and God, I immediately associate that with Brand New sound. Like, that is their sound to me. And that's something that the new album may or may not convince me otherwise, because as it stands, LP5 is going to be it, for all we know. So that puts Devil right in the middle. And usually the earlier to mid albums are really the sound that you kind of associate a band with, and I think Sowing Season kind of really sets that mood really well. Nexus Millstone. The lyrics are still, they're somewhat biblical, they're still pretty dark, but it's kind of a lighter song for them in terms of the whole album. I think the instrumentation is meant to be a little light, while everything else is pretty heavy, and that kind of influences the way Millstone goes. Another big thing about Devil and God is mystery about some of the lyrics. In this release, they gave out, it was included, if I can find it, I don't want to say gave out, but there was a lyric sheet. Right, and most of these lyrics I associate with the album. I recognize these words, I recognize where they're coming from and why they're being said, but there's a lot of places where you got a lot of things are crossed out, you got a bunch of blank lines. It gets a little blurred, and I think Millstone is a good indication of that, because it's a song that can be interpreted a lot of ways, but it's still really solid. On an album of really, really good songs, Millstone kind of is a little underrated, I feel. So next is Jesus. When I first was into Brand New, I was really big into Your Favorite Weapon, as most people were. I was a teenager, I was feeling the same way as Jesse, as most teenagers would. when they're 17 years old, 18, that kind of stuff. And then I didn't make the jump to Deja right away. I think it took me a while to get there. Like, I saw the album, I saw the CD in Best Buy all the time, and I was like, I'll pick it up eventually. I kind of want to hold on to this almost childish, almost, I don't want to say childish, but it's something I wanted to hold on to. And the release of Jesus kind of pushed me to realize that I was getting a little too old. I believe this is a sentiment of the band and as well as most of its fans. They're getting to the point where Your Favorite Weapon is still amazing, but it's not relatable anymore. Well, in terms of the lyrics, like, it's still really, really good music, but people don't feel the same about it. People feel that Deja and Devil are their best albums because the lyrics are so deep and meaningful to everyone in an individual way. And I picked that up immediately about Jesus. That being said, after seeing them now 3 times live, and they played it all 3 times, I don't enjoy it as a live song. I heard it the first time, or I'm sorry, they didn't play it the second time because I went to the Discovery show with Your Favorite Weapon and Deja. So I didn't see Jesus that time. But the first time I saw it was at Bamboozle. It really kind of hit me hard, that type of song being in a live set, because it's so somber, it's so slow. It's, well, not slow, but it's mid-tempo to low-tempo type of song. When I saw them in Mansfield, it was kind of like, I didn't want to hear it again. Like, to me, that song is much better on the album than it would be live. And I don't know if that's because I would rather have another song in that spot, or because I've listened to that. That was like my first experience with, I guess, grown up, brand new, whatever you want to call it. Next would be Degosser. Degosser is my favorite song on the record, and it has been pretty much forever. Sowing Season was up there for a long time, and then Degosser kind of took that spot. Once I heard the stories about how the album was crafted and the fact that they wrote Degosser on the road, like, as a 4-piece. Like, they had to get a song on the album, and they all cohesively came together on the road, all on tour, to make such a good song. It's even credited all 4 of them composed the music and the lyrics, like, or maybe not the lyrics, but the music. Jesse or Vin doing most of the composing work, I guess. Degosser is the most quintessential brand new song. That and Tommy Gun. Those 2 will always be, like, when people ask me about brand new, those are the 2 songs that I'm going to point them to immediately. Because to me, that's what it means. And I'm sure a lot of people can come up with some other ones, but I'd be hard-pressed to find someone who didn't at least agree that those are iconic brand new songs. They're just the songs that I associate with the band so much. Next is Limousine, which is a really sad story. And if people don't know the story, you can look it up, but I'm going to give you a brief TLDR type of deal. It was a wedding in Long Island, and after the ceremony, the limo driver took the newlyweds and their child. They had a kid, and the taxi driver was unfortunately intoxicated, and he crashed into a truck, and the girl died, who was the flower girl at the wedding. And the song tells the story from the perspective of the little girl, the mother, and the driver. And I thought that was a very sad and unique way to write a song. And I applaud Jesse for that one, probably the most in this album, just because of the theme that it has. At first, when I listened to it, I was like, oh, it's a long song. I kind of had the same feeling as Good to Know off of Deja. I'll have to get used to it, but upon hearing the backing vocals that are in her perspective, it just hit me so hard. And I think that's a song that I still want to hear live. And I'm sad that they haven't played it, at least when I went to see them. You Won't Know, it's another one of those really deep and meaningful songs that kind of has a hidden layer underneath. When you first listen to it, it's very, very instrumentally minded, and I was blown away by that outro that they did on their tour. And it's still one of the best songs for me, even though it's very bookended. It starts with the long guitar, the You Won't Know lines going on. I had a phase, well, everyone did, writing lyrics on Facebook as your status. I'm sure everyone's done that. And I did it once with the lyrics to You Won't Know. What was it? Let me find it. Jog my memory. Oh, and it's I wish I could tell you right now that I love you, but it looks like I won't be around. And I wrote that as my status for whatever reason. And my mom and my sister commented asking if I was okay. I joke about it, but obviously people suffer from issues like that. It's a funny story I associate with an otherwise dark song, and I think that's healthy to do for the most part. Probably miss Bangkok. Bangkok instrumental. When I saw them at Bamboozle, they opened the set with a song, and it was really powerful, and I liked it a lot. And on the album, it just kind of shifts the mood a little bit. And I feel like the first half of the record is very, not that the last half is the same. It's very, very deep. I feel like you kind of need a break after those 5 or 6 songs that really dig deep into your psyche, and you need a break. And I'm sure they felt that way as well. And it's still a heavy song because I'm sure there's lyrics underneath that I don't remember or I can't decipher type of thing. So there's something definitely there. Not the Sun is my girlfriend's favorite song on the album, and probably a brand new song as well. It's a shame they don't play live that much. Most of the reasoning is because they would never be able to perform it up to the standards of the album. And I can see that sentiment. There's obviously a lot of tracks going on, there's a lot of stuff going on in that song. And I think that's why it makes it really good. To me, it's an album staple. Like, it's one of those songs that deserved a spot. More than a couple others. We all know how people feel about Handcuffs, but I'll get to that later. Not the Sun is a typical rock song. It's exciting to listen to. It's got a really good chorus. It's got a really good bridge, and it's got a good everything pretty much. And the harmonies in there are really good. And it's probably their most like musical write a song type of thing. It's like a cohesive thing, kind of like The Gosser, but not in the same way. All right, so then Luca, that came from Mamas. They borrowed a couple stanzas, and then they added the Luca Bomb. But when I first heard that song, I was like, oh, it's acoustic, but it didn't sound like something was off. Acoustic Brand New is like end of the album, or, well, this is mid-album pretty much, sitting at number 8, but something felt off about it. Like, I knew there was something else to this song. It couldn't just be this somewhat repetitive guitar, and repetitive but good. It sounds really good, but I knew there had to be something different. And when the Luca Bomb dropped, it made me realize how much the demos affected them. In probably a more positive way than, it was still negative, like I said before. Mamas was pretty rough in terms of the demos. There was a couple that were kind of like, these are maybe second take, second try types of thing. Mamas was one of those, and they upgraded it into a really good song to accompany the album. And the ending really kind of makes it that. They added a different layer with that, and I applaud them for that. As an acoustic song, it didn't really work, but there was something, you could tell that something big was going to happen. So that brings us to Untitled. Again, another instrumental. I tend to like this one more than Bangkok because there are more vocals that you can somewhat hear. And there's a lot of tracking. There's like some weird production stuff going on. So I think it sounds good for an instrumental song. And then Archers. For a lot of people, Archers kind of finishes the album for them. It's kind of like Not the Sun, where it's very rock and roll. It's very, I don't want to say by the books, but it's just constructed well as a song. I remember I think I was standing at like a balance and composure show, and usually like before the band goes on, they play like tracks in the background at the venues, and they were playing like rap and stuff I wouldn't normally listen to. And then Archers came on. I was like, I forgot the last time I actually listened to, like, not that I don't listen to it, but I forgot the last time that I like appreciated this song as much as I did. Even though it comes in later, it's still a really hard hitter. And it apparently was influenced a little bit by the Battalions, the last track on the demos. And then we finally get into Handcuffs. And Handcuffs, people give Vin a lot of, well, maybe not personally, but at least from what I hear, they give him a lot of flack and a lot of negative feedback about that song. Because up to that point, all the songs were written by Jesse, the lyrics. The music was composed either by the band or them two usually working together. But this is the first time that Vin got a chance at lyrics. And while I won't comment on whether... here's what I will say. I'll say that the theme of the song fits in with the rest of the album, even though the lyrics are strange. And I think that's what a lot of people had negative things to say about Daisy. It was both of their influences, lyric-wise, into an album that was musically the band. So it created some sort of weird mix. So I think that's kind of where that started with Handcuffs. Like, they wouldn't have put the song on the album if they all didn't agree on it. And while it is a strange way to end it, given that they set a standard pretty high for themselves with Soko and Play Crack the Sky, I still enjoy the song. I just don't enjoy it as the closer to Devil and God. And I'm sure that's what a lot of people would agree with. They would say, I like Handcuffs, I think it's underrated, but I wish it didn't end one of the best albums of all time. And I think that's pretty much my take on Handcuffs. As a whole, the order of the tracks, they work, they mesh. Having the two instrumentals towards the latter half is kind of strange, but I get it because the first half is so heavy and so dense and so many themes are going on that you kind of need a break later on, which is a good songwriting and song construction method. I'm not sure if they have any plans to do anything with the 10-year. I doubt it. From just looking at theories and speculation and everything, this is their most repressed album. Like, they've had more vinyl variants of this one than the other three combined. I don't know about combined, but the other three, yeah, let's go with that. So part of me says maybe they'll do something special for Devil and God, but I feel like they already have. because they did the leaked demos. They gave us the songs that came out beforehand. They're obviously tying up loose ends. They're obviously making good on finishing what they started as a band. And I think the 2018 thing, people are going to be sad. It's going to be one of those things where their band that they loved is from their childhood to their adulthood is ending, seemingly because they're getting old and they don't want to do it. And that's a sad thing for a lot of people. But for me, at this point, I'm kind of craving more material. Like, I've heard the leaked demos for a long time, and if you put them all together, the updated versions, they make a really good album. But it's not up to par what they wrote for Devil and God. From I Am a Nightmare and Mean, it sounds like they're really pushing in a different direction from Daisy. Again, they're not going to make the same one twice, so I'm very excited for that eventual drop and that eventual release. So those are my thoughts on a little bit of everything, mostly Devil and God, and then some about the demos and the future of the band. I will do another one of these on Deja, the other two, and then when the new one comes out, that'll be the real test. That'll be, how do I feel about this band now that this is probably the last thing they release. All right, thanks for listening to me babble about a really good album. I hope you enjoyed. Check out my other videos and leave some feedback and comments below, and I'll see you later.